Salve, salve, Maestro here, and happy Thursday, Victorians. Today we're going to take a look at the company rework dev diary. And with no more delay, let's go. Just as always, this is work in progress. So basically, this dev diary is divided between the types of company that now we have. And the first one is company charters. Company charters are a new way for you to enable your companies to expand their wealth and reach. They all provide new, different set of rights to the company in question. What those rights are, I will talk about in detail further down. So here are the icons for the new company charters. Like I can't know which one of those this is. Maybe this is Monopoly. Maybe this will boost the extraction resources. This seems like settlement. In both of those, I just don't know about it, but let's continue. Every country get a number of free charters which you will be able to hand out across all your companies. You can go over the limit, but then each charter will cost you additional authority. For example, if you have 5 free charters to spend, you can put them all onto one company, increasing their opportunities by a lot, but be left with no charters for your other companies. Or you can spread them equally, specializing all companies only a bit in order to see them succeed. The choice is yours. The number of free charters can come from different sources, like economic laws, technologies, and the rank of the country. As this free charter functionally is a very late addition in our process, we're not making full use of it yet. But we also see potential in adding it as an effect to the completion of certain journal entries, events, or power block principles, for example. And we are also happy to take your feedback for where you believe this could be added. So already we have two great news. Basically, company charters will be bought by authority. Why this is good news is because of two things basically. It makes sense to be authority. Like I can see why a given a company charter will cost authority, although I could also see why I would spend bureaucracy on it. But then we come to the second part, which is authority lacks some deep nowadays. Because each type of the mana goods, let's say, they are useful both in the beginning and in the late game for different reasons. So, like bureaucracy in the beginning, you need to ensure that you have a surplus of bureaucracy because of taxation, basically, which represents what happened in the beginning of the Victorian era. But as long as you go through the game, you start to spending more bureaucracy on institutions or like diplomacy. In the beginning of the game, you spend a lot of your diplomacy in order to secure some alliance, improve relations, decrease relations. But as you progress in the game, you start to using it more into some permanent pacts or some subjects. So authority in the beginning is very useful because you can put some decrees, you can put some consumption taxes, you can use its surplus to speed up the law enactment time. But when you reach the late game, it's kind of useless. Like most of the times, I just put on consumption taxes in order to finance the government and decrease the normal taxes because I feel like it has a greater impact on the economy. So adding this debt to the authority is very great to see. And the other thing is this here potential in adding it as an effect to the completion of certain journal entries. So it seems that the developers are taking a much more flavor style instead of a sandbox style. Because I feel like a free charter is a permanent modifier. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to have it for like 5 years. And even if it's not a permanent modifier, it will be something like 20 years. And 20 years have a huge impact. So very nice to see this coming from the developers. Now, our first charter is the colonization one. While the era of the big company states started to end in our time frame, there certainly were ambitions by some to continue this trend. So when you hand out a colonial charter, you select the target state to be colonized, and then a colony will be created, which will be supported by your company. The colony receives a bonus to its colonization speed upon fully colonizing in one state region. This will actually turn the colony into a new country led by the company you gave the charter to. The new country is a charter company type of subject of your country and behaves like any other regular country pretty much. The new country has a connection to your company though, of course, and receives a bonus to construction of new buildings and fruit. The country gets the same bonus the company receives for industries that are in the company supported building types and a fraction of them for any other building. On the other hand, a company country cannot have companies on their own. Of course, if they go fully independent, they will be able to do so. So a lot of questions coming out of here because the first charter is already very powerful. Like there is no reason for you to actually colonize a region like in Africa. You probably will always want to grant a colonial charter to someone because it increases the speed of colonization, if I understand it right, and it gives production and throughput bonus not only to the buildings of the company, but all the buildings. So if we mix it with the extraction economy, let's say that gives a throughput, this will be massive. Okay, so this will make colonies much more overpowered. Now, talking about the questions like, will the profit of the country impact in the profit of the company? Because I feel like, okay, the colonial charter already gives you 40% to the overlord, but there could be a 10% that would go to the company, because since it's a state governed by a company, the company should earn some of the money, right? And also some of the losses if this happen. And this is one state region or one state. I feel like it's one state region because that's how it works nowadays with the journal entry colonization of Africa. Like you colonize some states and then it turns into a colony of multiple states. And like we have this iteration here. This is the icon to annex a country. So I can't turn a charter company to another type of company. Like what if I remove the colonization charter from that company? What happens to the state? It turns into a normal subject. It turns into a colonial administration like it's nowadays. It completely gets uncolonized. Like what happens to the state? So some questions already, but still very good, very great to see. Trade charter. The trade charter is a quite straightforward. It allows the company in question to build, buy, and run trade centers. Once you granted your company a trade center, the trade centers are added to the company building types, making company-owned trade centers profit from the same bonus the other industries do. Trade centers run by a company additionally have a trade advantage bonus for goods that are produced by their building types. That's quite interesting because we don't know how powerful is trade, right? So this can be very profitable for the company. But I feel like it's not that profitable, like in year five, let's say. But this will probably be used in situations that you like want to control the world market of the good. Like when you unlock automotive, most of the times you have 80% or more of the world production in the beginning. And as you progress, it turns into 99%. So if there is a company about motor industries, if you gave a trade charter for them, they can probably fully control the automotive market in the world. Now, industry charter. Similar to the trade center, the industry charter allows your company to expand into a new type of business. Depending on scripted options, using this charter will allow you to grant your company the rights to expand into a different industry entirely. Okay, so nowadays your company can only increase vertically by increasing the number of industries that it already has, but now you can grow them horizontally and like creating a production chain of some type of good. This can be extremely overpowered. Probably the meta of the game right now will be go for as much authority as you can. So like instead of fully liberalizing your country right in the beginning, you might prefer to have some conservative laws to get more authority or like use more some power blocks mandate like the police, I think, that gives authority, the vassalization of subjects give authority because this seems to be the meta. Give all the powers to the companies. Investment charter. You can grant an investment charter to a company to bolster their investment in foreign countries. How that works is that companies can establish a regional headquarters in any country where they have at least 5 owned levels and you have foreign investment rights. The regional HQ, similarly to the main company HQ, serve as the place to display ownership of local investments and simultaneously as the place to collect the income of those buildings. It sends the profit to your home country's investment pool so that capitalists in your country can use that to build even more wealth. So up until now is just a way to make it easier to know how much profitable that state is being like. If you have a company in Great Britain that has some assets in India, now you have a headquarter that sum up all of the profit made in India. So you have a bigger notion on how much you are losing or gaining from that country. But still, we have a last paragraph. That's the catch. The presence of a regional HQ allows the company to use the foreign country investment pool to construct or buy additional building levels, bringing more option of aggressive foreign acquisitions to the table. Okay, most of the times that you have a possibility to grant investment charter to a company, you're gonna be on your vessels, let's be honest. And your vessel's investment pool will not be that big, even because most of the times you will want to put extraction economy on them. So this seems to be the weakest of them all. Until now, this investment charter seems to be the weakest. Because as I said, most of the times when you actually can give an investment charter, this will be on a very much poorer country. And as such, their investment pool will not be that big, so it won't make that difference, okay? I don't think it's worth it to waste one of your free charter or spending some authority when you can expand your industry, when you can grant them colonization, this free charter doesn't make any sense. Now, monopoly charter. Monopoly charter allow you to choose an industry or more of a company to grant them exclusive building rights of that industry. This industry list does include any industry the company has gotten access to via another charter though. So for example, you can use industry charter to unlock logging camps for a company and then subsequently grant the same company a monopoly for logging camps. So what does the monopoly actually do? Well, like a proper monopoly should, it increases prices of the produced goods. We modify the selling price in the building levels affected by a monopoly. The company's potential profits are increased by this since they are all selling goods at the higher prices. This will in turn, of course, increase the market price too, according to how much of a good is produced under a company monopoly. An active monopoly will also make it so that companies can purchase buildings of the fitting type for a big discount from their owners. Which other owners? I will talk about that further down this dev diary. Additionally, we have a nice tie-in with the treaty system that Alex presented next time. As part of a treaty, you'll be able to request a country to give monopoly rights to one of your companies, further increasing their profits from ownership in foreign lands. Now, one question about it is this will spend their authority. Like, if I forced some country to grant monopoly to my company, they will waste their authority, I will waste my authority, or no one will waste authority for this since it's like a treaty. This seems kind of tricky, but it's actually very important because I can already see some gameplay patterns about monopolizing everyone's economy. But talking about the monopolies itself, it will be interesting to see this because I don't feel like there is very much potential from monopoly to like resources, you know? Because most of the times you want your resources to be underpriced because you most of the times use them in other buildings, you use them in your construction sector. And this will also apply to industries like glass, steel, tools, or very base consumption goods like clothing or furniture. So I feel that this monopoly has a very big potential into luxury products or like agriculture products. So if we are talking about luxury furniture, luxury clothing, maybe even some fine arts, for them the price doesn't really matter that much. So increasing the profitability of the building won't make that difference over the economy. And I also can see that on agriculture goods, as I said, because you can very quickly overproduce them. So by granting a monopoly over coffee, you can actually make the plantations go very, very profitable, which leads into some very interesting gameplay patterns to only focus on agriculture that nowadays isn't possible. Now, what's free with the 1.9 updates? and they are talking about executives. As I said in the last dev diary, executives would be some character-based gameplay. So very nice to see them because we need more characters in the game actually affecting the gameplay. Like I feel we need some characters affecting the research. We need some cabinets affecting ministries. There is a mod about better politics that you can actually grant ministries into the institutions. This would be very nice. And every political law could be their own appointment law. So if you are in a monarchy, you can only grant ministries to people from the head of government interest group. Or like if you are in parliamentarism, you can only give them to people that are part of the government. In theocracy, you can only give to the church interest group. So I was overthinking about this, and like I had a kind of a great idea about the political spectrum. So let's say that we have a ministry system right now that you can appoint ministries to the institutions. So basically, by appointing ministries, one of the things that you do is increase approval of the interest group. And hear me out. The approval nowadays, it pretty much just says if you are going to get a buff or a debuff, or if that group is going to be revolutionary. Technically, it also affects the loyalist, but that's not very important. So what we could do is approval rates modify the clout of the IG. What I mean by that, if we are passing laissez-faire, if I'm not mistaken, the petit bourgeoisie endorses laissez-faire. They don't fully endorse it, but they endorse. So if they endorse, this will give us 75% of their clout. Let's say they have 10% of clout. But since they only endorse that law, of course, not everyone from the petit bourgeoisie will vote for that law. So only 75% of this 10% will vote, which basically means 7.5% of clout to that law. But if we have a great approval of the petit bourgeoisie, this could be modified so we can actually sway some people that are not voting for laissez-faire to vote. So this 75%, that is because they only endorse the law, will jump to 80, 85. So like, look at this overall idea about the political system. We can have ministries, we can have increase the approval or like modify the approval, and now the approval will change how much of that clout you can take to pass some laws. So let's say if we are passing a law that the landowners doesn't want, but for some reason we have a ton of approval from them. Instead of them increasing the stall chance by 30%, we can decrease that number by 25, by 20, because we are granting them some ministries, let's say. So a very cool idea I just had right now, but let's go back to the dev diary. Introducing executives, a new role that characters can have. They serve as the head of a company, not only running it, but also being the face of the company towards the outside world. Executives will come with some new character traits that we are adding, which will boost certain aspects of a companies. As an example, a free charter to spend or a bonus to throughput in the company's own levels. These traits are not done yet. Executives will boost their political power of the affiliated interest groups, similar to how generals do. The amount is dependent on how well the company they are leading is doing. Like other characters, executives can end up as a head of interest group as well if circumstances line up accordingly. If a company forms a new country via the colonization charter, it is also the executive who will be the head of state of the new country. At least at the start, depending on the country's laws, of course, they might have elections that change the ruler, for example. So these executives can also be the head of my own state, right? Because if they can be the head of the interest group, depending on the law, the head of the interest group is already the head of the country. And also, I do not like this idea that their political power is linked to prosperity, because this is what seems, right? How well the company are doing, it seems to me that it's linked to prosperity. But this should be linked to like the amount of the country GDP that they own or the amount of industries that they have or something like it. We hope to expand on this in the future to make executives have more impact on your political life so that companies feel even more like an actor within your country. or maybe even to the point where granting them too many privileges will actually turn them into a potential danger. But that will require more work in the future. So one thing that they can do is make these executives work as agitators. So this guy is a authoritarian. Make so that he can join a political movement, and if so, it decreases the company profit. Hear me out. If the executive joins a political movement, he probably will support it. Like talking about real life here. And by supporting, I mean financially. So, in a way, we can say that he is financing that political movement. So, he is spending a little bit of the company's profit in order to increase the political movement power. So, this will lead you to some situations where it can be a headache because most of the times the ideology of the executives will go face to face with your ambitions because you probably want to pass public schools or you want to do a universal suffrage or you want to move to council republic or whatever. So this will lead to some situations that like you actually want some company to be profitable, but you can't give them too much power because that power will increase their profitability and as such will increase some political movement that you don't like. Of course, this can go all the way around. Like, you want the company to be as profitable as much because you like the ideology of the executive. So basically, this will turn a little bit the political game right now because let's say you can spend 200 authority to suppress or bolster some political movement, or you can give a company two monopolies because you like the executive ideology and you know that by increasing its profit, you're gonna increase the political movement that you want. Something like it, right? Very cool idea. Like these have a very big potential. And about the interface, they changed it a little bit. So now we can see the executive, the name of the state, I guess. They changed it a little bit and we can see that we have a globally tab. I don't know what's this about. So they got some prestige goods. It doesn't seem like a prestige good, right? Because this on the back here is a building. So I still think that, as I said, prestige good will be a modifier and not a new type of good. Because, okay, it's hard to picture opium in another way rather than this cigarette or the plant itself, but it's not intuitive to have a building in a prestige good, you know? This should be only the good. Okay, so in the globally tab, we can actually see all the companies in the world right now and we can compare them by the profit. And it seems that this Belgian company here already is granted a trade charter, right? Okay, so very cool UI here about the company. Like, I pretty much love this character border here. Very cool. We can see the charters that we gave to them. So we gave them a monopoly over fish. Okay, I don't see why. And they gave them the groceries factory expansion. Okay. Oh, this is very good. I didn't saw it, but we have a statistic tab where we can see how good the company were. As a good strategy player, we do love to see statistics and a line that goes up. Every kind of Excel with greater UI, we'd love. And here they talk about some little changes, but the most important is now, companies will be able to buy building levels owned by financial districts and manor houses. Being honest, I didn't even know that they couldn't do that. Like, it doesn't make sense in my opinion. And probably this will mix with this paragraph here that they are saying that they made it easier to establish companies. So a later thought that I had about monopoly is that what happens if I grant monopoly over a gold company? Because technically the gold price should go up, so I will increase my minting by that. This could be a very interesting pattern, like establishing a gold company, giving them monopoly, and then increasing the price of gold so you can have more minting. This would be very great. But that's all for this dev diary. I hope you like it. Next dev diary will be over prestige goods in May 29th. I hope that I helped you to understand and you liked my ideas. Comment and like, subscribe, and I see you next time.